I tell you what, Storm Ciara was not the only storm that happened this weekend. The Championship this weekend was an absolute storm with some shock results from the top and the bottom end of the table. We've got so much to discuss today. In terms of shout-outs, unfortunately, there were so many predictions left out, but none of them were correct, which actually surprised me, actually. I only got one correct prediction, that was the Reading and Hull City game, which ended 1-1. I do feel bad that I'm not giving our shout-out, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give one comment the benefit of a doubt, and that is to Charlie Price. You predicted that Walker was going to score for Nottingham Forest. He only scored once, but the fact that Walker did score for Nottingham Forest, I'm going to give that comment the benefit of the doubt. So Charlie Price, you will be getting the shout-out today. Following no correct predictions, it means nothing is changed on the Lexus Hall of Fame. However, all of you guys have got a chance to redeem yourselves. We've got some midweek predictions to go through as well, which we're going through the second part of my video. The first part, obviously, is going to be me talking about what I saw this weekend of Championship football. As always, if you like what you see, you want to see more Championship content, please make sure you do give this video a like. Always massively appreciated. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't done, or if you're new around here. Well, 97 subscribers at the moment. We're so tight, we're so close to that elusive 100 mark. If we hit that, honestly, that'll be the first main target achieved. So if you could do that, that'll be fantastic. And please share the channel to as many Championship fans as we can, so that we can grow this channel. But without any further ado, let's go on for what I saw in this weekend. So Bristol City lost their winning streak to Birmingham, losing by 3-1. Jamie Patterson scored after 40 seconds of the game, where Roberts made a terrible back pass and Patterson managed to nick it off from him, managed to get past Camp and score, and that made it 1-0 to Bristol City. And I thought Bristol City scoring that early on, I was a little bit scared for Birmingham. But I have to say, fair play. Birmingham really took a game to Bristol City and really got themselves back into it. Scott Hogan managed to score the equaliser. He equalised through Jeremy Bella, who managed to force a save from Bentley, but he parried it straight to Hogan and he tapped it in to make it 1-1. And before you know it, Birmingham went ahead, and Andres Weimann, the former Aston Villa player, managed to head a very unfortunate own goal. He couldn't really do much about it. It was just him being in the wrong place in the wrong time, and that made it 2-1 to Birmingham. Since going ahead, Bristol City I thought were really poor. They only had 2 shots on target throughout the whole 90 minutes, which is absolutely surprising. And for a home performance as well, it's not going to make the home fans very happy. Defending was also poor, which was how Jukovic managed to score the 3rd goal. He managed to finish the scoring by beating 3 defenders with such ease, but he managed to loop the ball over Bentley, and that made it 3-1. Bristol City has 7 from 50 points. You could say it's an opportunity missed, especially as some of the sides around them did lose also this weekend. As with Birmingham, they're 15th, 10 points from the playoffs, but 11 points from relegation. So they're practically right in the cusp of mid-table. So the next run of games could really determine where Birmingham are going to be, whether they're going to be challenging for playoffs or whether they're going to be fighting for relegation. We're just going to have to wait and see. But it's a very encouraging performance from Birmingham, which I did write them off. I didn't think that they were going to have a really strong away performance. They haven't had many this season, but I have to say fair play. They really took the game to Bristol City and were deserving winners. As with Bristol City, they've got to produce a response against Derby. If not, it could be squeaky bum time whether Bristol City will get to the playoff places. Now we go to the early Saturday games. First of all, we go to the Lancashire Derby, which ended as a 2-1 away victory to Preston. Preston have not won a lot away from home. I believe this is their 3rd or 4th away win now. So they don't come often, but Preston, I have to say, through most of that game, I thought did really well. It was very important that they got this victory. Following that Bristol City lost, they've now leapfrogged Bristol City to get into the final playoff place, which could be very important going into the next run of games. They've got a really tough fixture list going up, Preston. They went ahead in 7 minutes of the game with a beautiful pass from Pearson. Managed to meet Johnson, who squared it onto Barkusen. He simply tapped it in, and that made it 1-0 to the away side. John Maguire nearly ended his goal drought. A really well-timed header, which was well saved by Marshall. Preston immediately took control and asserted their great form going ahead at half-time. It's fantastic. They've actually not lost a game since going ahead at half-time since January 2018, which is an unbelievable record. So Preston are quite intimidated to try and beat when they're leading at half-time. And before you know it, they scored their 2nd goal. Brown getting involved, he then got it to Barkusen, who found Johnson with a lot of space, and he simply smashed it past Marshall, and that made it 2-0. Wigan did get back into it. Around 9 minutes later, Dunkley managed to get a goal back. It was a little bit fortunate. Gerhardt, I thought, did really well to keep the ball and loop a perfect delivery to Moore. He chested it, and then Dunkley managed to do just about enough to poke it in the roof of the net past Rudd, and that made it 2-1. And Wigan did continue to pile the pressure. I thought Jamal Lowe actually looked pretty good and pretty dangerous at certain situations. But Preston did well to hold firm. Declan Rice did have to make a few quite important saves, but overall, Preston did hold on, which was really, really important for them. This defeat now sees Wigan 4 points off safety. Their next few coming games are going to determine whether that they'll have a chance to survive or not. If they don't win in their next 3 or 4 games, I say Wigan will soon be cut adrift, which then means it's a mountain for them to try and be safe from relegation now. As with Preston, they've got to keep winning and they've got to improve their away record. They've actually not lost in their last 4 away games now, which is actually really encouraging for Preston. So if they continue that, Preston could be okay and could be the dark horse for the playoff places. So the other early Saturday game was the Yorkshire derby between Barnsley and Sheffield Wednesday. This ended as a 1-1 draw. Now, it wasn't the best game to watch. It went alive for about 10 minutes and then fizzled out for the rest of the game. So it had really lacked action in the first 10 minutes. Josh Windass and Connor Wickham were making their full debuts for Sheffield Wednesday, and Josh Windass managed to score on that debut. It was a little bit fortunate how he got the goal. Barnsley tried to clear the ball, but it took 2 deflections from 2 defenders, and it found Windass with so much space, and he made no mistake shooting it past Collins, and that made it 1-0 to the away side. However, Cameron Dawson had a day to forget for Sheffield Wednesday. For some reason, he came out of his goal trying to clear the ball, which he didn't really need to do, and it was a poor clearance. It went straight to Cauley Woodrow. He scores from about 25 yards out in an empty net, and that made it 1-1. In terms of chances, I think Barnsley had a few of the stronger chances, but overall, it's not a game that I'm necessarily going to remember. It's a result that doesn't really do either side any favours. For Barnsley, it doesn't really increase their chances of survival, and with Sheffield Wednesday, it doesn't really help them try and get some ground back for the playoff places. So a draw was probably not necessarily the result that either of these sides wanted, but they've both got a chance to try and improve it when they've got their midweek games. Now we get to the 3 o'clock games. We'll start off with Fulham picking up a clutch 1-0 away victory against Blackburn Rovers. This is Blackburn Rovers' only 3rd home defeat all season, so losing at Ewood Park is pretty rare for Blackburn. And a funny stat for you, Fulham have actually done the double over Blackburn for the first time since 2001, when they actually won promotion to the Premier League for the very first time. So maybe some good omens for Fulham there. Fulham dominated most of the game and were rarely troubled defensively, in my opinion. I have to say, what a performance by Michael Hector. Not being a player that I've discussed a lot on my transfer show, but wow. I mean, I've seen him at Chelsea, but he's almost shown the potential that we should have got out of him with Chelsea. I'm really glad he's been gaining the opportunity with Fulham now. He was a leader at the back and was forcing opportunities as well. He was working so hard for Fulham. He was absolutely terrific for me. Walton kept Blackburn in the game, doing a couple of saves, but it was Mitrovic that made the difference, scoring his 20th goal of the season. Brian managed to provide him with the ball, and he did a turn and managed to strike it well past Walton, and that made it 1-0. Blackburn did go gung-ho in near the end of the game with 4 strikers on the field, so they really weren't taking any chances. And despite that tactic, Blackburn couldn't poke through. This is a very important victory for Fulham. They're now joint on points with Leeds. And following that, Leeds have got a really tough test against Brentford next. Fulham can have a really strong chance to get into the promotion places. They've got to be as consistent as they can. As with Blackburn, it's a bit disappointing. They've lost a little bit of ground from getting into the playoff places, but they've got another home game in midweek. If they can recover that and prove that they do have their really strong home record as well, it doesn't look all that bad for them. And we had a very topsy-turvy game going on at Griffin Park, my goodness. We had Brentford beating Middlesbrough by 3-2. Wow. I'm going to try and get through this. It was a game full of action, and Brentford should have taken the lead very early on, but Dale Fry first produced a heroic goal line clearance. Brentford were inches away from going ahead. However, by narrow margins, Brentford did get their lead. It was somehow forced through over the line by Janvier. Whilst Josh Da Silva couldn't, Janvier managed to do it somehow. So that made it 1-0 to Brentford, only just. In the second half, we had 3 goals in 5 minutes. To go through the first one, Lewis Wing, doing what he does best, scores a screamer from just outside the box, and that made it 1-1. But then minutes later, Mbumio managed to score, taking a wicked deflection of Mukudi, who was making his debut for Middlesbrough, recently signing for them. Then Middlesbrough immediately responded with Ashley Fletcher scoring his 10th goal of the season, which I believe is actually his highest goal tally ever. He managed to rise the highest from a corner, and he managed to head it, and that made it 2-2. And I thought we had a game on our hands. And Middlesbrough had a lot of opportunities to win the game. David Rea had to make quite a few great saves. Drama still went on to the 87th minute, where Ollie Watkins, scoring his 20th goal of the season, found enough space to smash the ball past pairs. Brentford found a way to get 3 points and narrowly managed to win by 3-2. Very important victory for Brentford once again. The fact they could swap places with Leeds after they play against them in midweek. It could either be make or break for either one of these sides. So I'm really excited for this game. In terms of Middlesbrough, it's a very positive performance. Really unlucky they didn't get all 3 points. If they recruit well in the summer and they keep most of their players, and Jonathan Woodgate can have a transfer window to implement his style, Middlesbrough could be a dark horse next season. We're just going to have to wait and see. And then we had Huddersfield increasing their chances of survival with a 2-0 away victory against Queen's Park Rangers. A game that wasn't big on quality and not the most entertaining in the first half. Lewis O'Brien had a terrific chance for Huddersfield, but he shot wide. Grant Hall probably had the best chance of the first half for Queen's Park Rangers with his shot hitting the post. Eberechi Eze really was the main character trying to make things happen. Unfortunately, nothing was quite mustering for him. Jonas Lossell obviously making his return for Huddersfield goalkeeper. He was really calling to action. He had to make saves from Eze, he had to make a few saves from Hugo and also from Luke Amos in the first half. In the second half, Huddersfield managed to score 2 goals in 4 minutes, which was ultimately how they decided the game. Toffolo, who I thought was absolutely terrific, received the ball from Bakuna. He managed to loop it to Kachunga, who managed to get a good header on it, and that made it 1-0 to Terriers. Kachunga was also involved in the second goal, as he was the one who won the penalty for Huddersfield. It was poor from Kelly, who managed to give the ball away to Smith Rowe, who originally gave the ball to Kachunga, and that's how he was fouled for the penalty. Steve Mounier stepped up and he made no mistake. He made it 2-0, and that was ultimately game, set and match for Huddersfield. Queen's Park Rangers are not on a great run of form. They've now had 3 defeats in a row, which is a little bit of a shame for them. For Huddersfield, their revival continues. They had a pretty sticky patch of form midway through Danny Cowley's reign, but now they seem to have clawed it back a little bit. They're now getting wins on the board, which is really, really key. Not necessarily playing at 100%, but with the new signings, I think they legit have had one of the better transfer windows, because their new signings have actually improved the squad. Smith Rowe and Harry Toffolo, fantastic players, alongside with Middlesbrough. If they can gel and they can make those signings permanent, Huddersfield could be another side that could be a dark horse for next season. We're just going to have to wait and see if they lose anyone. Then we saw Cardiff getting a 1-0 away victory against Luton Town. It was a great contest, I thought, but what was worrying for me, for what I managed to gather in that game, was Luton's lack of confidence in front of goal. Cardiff had a great chance where Pearson managed to clear a shot off the line, but Ryan Tunnicliffe, Collins, both had chances of their own. However, both opportunities were shot wide. Luke had to make a terrific save in the second half from Callum Patterson, where Pearson got his header all wrong, but Patterson managed to get a shot away, but Sluga managed to get an arm out and managed to stop Patterson from scoring an easy goal. It was an unbelievable save. Unfortunately for him, 3 minutes later, Cardiff managed to go ahead. It was from Lee Tomlin. He managed to find space, turn past 2 defenders and shoot it from just outside the box, and that made it 1-0. Collins had 2 opportunities to equalise, one where he headed it wide, but it was a bit difficult, but he probably could have done better, but one where he should not have missed. He literally missed it from 2 yards. I can't believe, looking back at the highlights, that he still didn't score it. It was a sitter. It's worrying times. It's 5 defeats and 6 games for Luton. 24 points at the moment, with Wigan on 29, and with safety now being on Charlton's hands with 33 points. They are 9 points from safety. They need to pick up as many wins as they can. If they don't, it's only going to take till March or April where relegation is going to loom. But Cardiff, following that win, despite not really playing all that well that recently in my opinion, they're 8th. And only 4 points outside the playoffs, so we could see a late resurgence coming from Cardiff, who I previously predicted to win the championship, which I still heavily regret, but maybe they can make my prediction look less embarrassing and get into the playoffs, I hope at least. And then to the game where I only got the one correct prediction. It was Reading 1, Hull 1. Not a great game. What I will say, I think Hull started a lot better. Marcus Maddison had his first full debut, and I have to say, he looked really, really terrific, really settling in, and he's got a lot of burden to deal with, you know, filling in for the likes of Jared Bowen, who's been so influential for Hull. It's some really tough shoes to fill, but I actually thought he did quite well there. He forced an acrobatic save from Raphael in the first half. Both sides were not in great form going up into this game. Reading almost against the run of play, who I think did start to grow into it, but I think Hull was still edging them, but they went ahead through Jordan Obita. Obita managed to shoot it past Long's legs, and that made it 1-0. Reading's first win in 6 though was took away from them when Hull's new signing Manic Will scored his first goal for Hull since signing from Barnsley, which was massively helped from a wicked deflection, but he wouldn't care. That made it 1-1, and both sides are going to have to share the points. Hull's 4-game losing streak has ended now, so that's a one positive for them, but ideally it's not a result that either of these sides wanted either, and Reading still in a poor run of form. They've not won in 6 games now. In terms of the table, nothing separates them. There's only 1 point separating both of these clubs, and they're in around the same position as Birmingham, more or less, more closer to the playoffs. How their season will be defined is how they manage to deal with the second half of this season. And then a very important win in the bottom half of the table. Stoke got a 3-1 home victory against Charlton. They desperately needed this win, and as a result they leapfrogged Charlton in the table, putting the pressure now on them. I have to say, I think Stoke have really recovered, especially at home as well. They're unbeaten in 6 home games, picking up 4 wins from those 6 games, and they've only had 6 home wins this season, so their home form has definitely improved recently. The game overall was quite poor on quality, but Stoke did take the lead from James McLean, managing to score a simple tap-in. However, Ben Purrington managed to make things interesting, equalising in the final minute of the first half, with Andre Green continuing his fantastic form with Charlton, looping a great delivery and smashing it past Butland, and that made it 1-1 going to half-time, and I thought we had a real good game on our hands. However, Stoke came in the second half with all guns blazing. They needed this win, and they fought for this win. Tollins, who, if I'm going to be polite, has had a dreadful season, scored his first goal since August the 10th, actually against Charlton in the reverse fixture. Thinking the build-up of the goal, I think Charlton thought he was offside since the defence was quite static, but I don't think he was offside. I think Thomas did the right thing. He managed to score, and that made it 2-1 to Stoke. Charlton really weren't competing. They were really quite concerning in the second half. They really allowed Stoke to blow them away, and Nick Powell managed to seal all 3 points to the home side, where he managed to slot a ball home simply from a fantastic cross by Tommy Smith. That made it 3-1. Lowell Taylor had a few opportunities. Jason Pearce also had a couple of opportunities to try and score for Charlton as well, but ultimately they didn't do enough, and I do fear for Charlton a little bit. If they continue this really disastrous run of form continue, it would only take a matter of time for the likes of Wigan and maybe even Barnsley to overtake them. So they've got to be very, very careful. And another topsy-turvy game went down in the Liberty Stadium, where Derby got their 2nd away win of the season. They've not won away from home since the opening day of the season against Huddersfield Town. It's taken them that long to win an away game. Derby, we know what they are. They're fantastic at home. They actually got the 2nd best home record with 1 point behind Preston North End. But away from home, this is their 2nd win of the season. They're 20th place in the form books in terms of away games. So getting an away win like that could be very, very important with Derby going forward. Derby managed to take the lead with 8 minutes in, with Tom Lawrence managing to take a punt from about 25 yards out. Woodman managed to save it, and it came off the post, but Martin Waghorn was at the right place at the right time, managing to score through the Swansea net, and that made it 1-0. However, Swansea all of a sudden seemed to have their act together and scored 2 goals in 2 minutes. It started with Jan Danda managing to make a terrific run in the midfield with a load of space. I was a bit disappointed with how Derby didn't close him down. He managed to score an even better goal. It was fantastically struck in the right-hand corner. That made it 1-1. And for Swansea to go ahead, Ben Hamer, who was good in that game for Derby's goal, he'd be disappointed with that. He tried to punch away Andre Ayew's cross, but he didn't get a good enough connection for it. Ryan Brewster managed to win it back, and then he managed to give it to Carl Norton, who managed to simply pass it home into the net, and that made it 2-1 to Swansea. And I thought it was an amazing turnaround by the Swans. But then Derby managed to turn around their misfortune. So 10 minutes later, Dwayne Holmes managed to score, smashing the ball home after Waghorn's delivery that wasn't quite cleared. It was a great goal from him, and lastly, Derby went ahead with Waghorn involved again, with Lawrence managing to smash home from distance. Woodman probably could have done better to save that. He was planted on the line a little bit, but that is how Derby managed to win by 3-2. Swansea have not won in 3 games now, and following that, they have lost ground in the playoffs a little bit. As with Derby, their revival just continues, and no side has picked up more points since Rooney's arrival than Derby County. 13 points out of 18 is absolutely sublime. Just unbelievable from Derby. And maybe, just like with Cardiff, if they can enter the playoffs, not necessarily promotion, but if they enter the playoffs, it will not make my prediction for them to be promoted in second place look so silly. Maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic on that one, but we never know. The Championship is so unpredictable. 15 games left, anything can happen. So we've got 2 more games to go through. The next one to go through is Nottingham Forest beating Leeds United by 2-0. How important will this game be looking at the title race? Nottingham Forest allowed Leeds to play their way, their possession-based game, gained loads of chances, but Forest were absolutely devastating on the counter-attack. Some brilliant link-up play between Lolly and Figueiredo managed to set up Amiobi on a great one, but beating Kiko Casilla on his near post. So I think it was a bit disappointing of how Casilla let that in, but it was a great goal by Amiobi regardless. I've seen stats recently on Casilla. Right, his first 21 games, he's had a save percentage of 82%. 12 clean sheets in those 21 games, which is stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. Following the next 10 games from that, 0 clean sheets, 42% save rate, which I actually think is a bit high looking at some of the shots he's faced. And Leeds have only won 1 game in their last 9 games, which is not great for them. And by having an 11-point gap between them and the playoffs, it's now been reduced to 0. Forest should have even extended the lead in the second half. Lolly, who was in ridiculous form, just danced through the midfield and Leeds' defence. He managed to set up Graben with practically a free shot at goal, but he shot it straight at Casilla, who did a good save, to be fair, with his legs. Forest nearly got punished for that, with Liam Cooper managing to be unmarked, getting a fantastic header, but Bryce Samba managed to be heroic and claw it off the line. Leeds were millilitres away for managing to get an equaliser. Having said that, Forest managed to wrap up the points in stoppage time, where Leeds pushed forward for the equaliser, but what that was going to leave was their defence to be exposed to counter-attack, and Joe Lolly managed to nick the ball of Jack Harrison and set off Tyler Walker, who simply had to finish past Casilla, and that made it 2-0 to Forest. I have to give credit to Forest and Sabri Lamucci. Yes, they don't play the best style of football, but with the players that they've got, they can literally beat any team. As with Leeds, their worrying form continues. It could be crunch time for Leeds. If they don't beat Brentford, even if they lose to Brentford, it could be a real dire end to the season for them, especially if they don't pick up a win anytime soon. But it's going to be a very interesting end to the season for Leeds, let me tell you. And then finally, with probably one of the performances of the weekend, West Brom getting a fantastic 2-0 away victory against Millwall. Only Millwall's 3rd defeat at the Den this season, so the Den has been a fortress for teams this season. That performance on Sunday looked like the West Brom we saw at the start of the season. And this win puts them 4 points ahead of the chasing pack, which could be quite important if they've got some tough games to play. I know they've got to play Preston pretty soon. West Brom were the favourites and took control of the game right from the first whistle. Pereira should have put West Brom ahead very early on. Millwall were left wide open defensively, and Pereira, with a load of space, managed to shoot the ball well, but it hit the post, and unfortunately for him, if it was a couple of inches more to the left, that would have been the first goal. Following from that, Millwall did have a chance to score first. Mayo managed to put Wallace through on goal, but he managed to shoot it over the bar, which was a little bit poor on his standard. But I have to say, another terrific performance from Filip Krovinovic. He has been the one player for me who has stepped up to West Brom's really stuttery run of form and has really limped West Brom over the line to try and give West Brom these points. He was given the ball by Pereira and he controlled the pass well and managed to execute that shot perfectly. It was a clean strike past Bielkowski, and that made it 1-0 to West Brom. There was not many opportunities after that. What I will say, I'll give my analysis of Kamil Grzycki. He managed to go on from Callum Robinson. I have to say, he already looks so settled in West Brom. He managed to provide the assist to the second goal that wrapped up the points. He managed to loop in the Ciara, and it was Dara O'Shea who managed to get the header on his first goal for West Brom. You'd absolutely love to see it. The passion and the elation he got from that goal was absolutely heartwarming. That made it 2-0. Game, set and match for West Brom. This defeat leaves Millwall in 10th place. I think they still could make a chance for the playoffs, but they've got to be careful. They're in a pretty poor run of form at the moment, not winning in 3 games. But I think with Gary Rowett, I think he can recover. So before I go through my midweek score predictions, let me talk to you about the goal for weekend, player for weekend, and result of the weekend. I'll go through result for weekend first. I'm going to give it to Derby County with that 3-2 away victory to Swansea, gaining their second away win, and the manner of the game with Derby going ahead, Swansea going ahead, and Derby going ahead at the end of the game. It was absolutely unbelievable. So I'm going to give my result of the weekend to Derby County. Goal of the weekend's a little bit difficult. There weren't like many screamers, but there were a load of goals scored from outside the box. I'm actually going to give it to Tom Barcusen's goal for Preston. Not necessarily the most amazing goal, but the build up to the goal was just absolutely perfect. It was sublime. It was honestly the pass from Pearson to Johnson. Honestly, one of the best plays I've seen this season. So from that reason alone, I've got to give my goal of the weekend to Tom Barcusen. Player of the weekend's really difficult once again. There could be many players I can give this award to, but I'm going to give it to Joe Lolly. I've given him this award before, but I have to say, with the performance he was giving with Nottingham Forest, and that whole performance from Nottingham Forest, the way that they managed to beat Leeds, they really made Leeds look really average. So in terms of individual performances, I'm going to give my player of the weekend to Joe Lolly. So now obviously the second part of this video is going to see me predicting midweek's predictions. So start with Tuesday's game, Barnsley versus Birmingham. I think it's going to be quite tight. I'm going to say it's 1-1. I don't think Barnsley are going to have enough to win this game. Blackburn and Hull, not sure, but Blackburn were great at home, although they do have a strong record. I'm going to say 1-1 again. I'm not going to predict every game 1-1, by the way, even though that's probably a smart tactic. Brentford, Leeds, for me, I'm going to have to give it to Brentford, 2-0 Brentford, and I believe that was the exact same scoreline as last year. I think Lightning will strike twice, and Brentford would also win by 2-0. Nottingham Forest and Charlton, I see this being quite a feisty and entertaining game. I'm going to say Charlton will not win, but I think there will be plenty of goals. I'm going to say 3-2 Nottingham Forest. I think this will be a really entertaining game. Swansea versus Queen's Park Rangers, both sides in not great form, both sides not winning in their last 3 games. I think with Swansea being the home side, I'm just going to edge them by 2-1, although that would mean 4 defeats in a row for Queen's Park Rangers, so they really cannot afford to lose this many games in this stage of the season. Wigan versus Middlesbrough, really tight, I think. Could really go either way because Wigan do have great home performances. They know that they were below par against Preston. Middlesbrough, although were terrific against Brentford, but they'll be feeling hard done by that they didn't get anything from this game. I'm going to edge Middlesbrough for a 2-1 away victory, but I'm unsure on this game. Now go to Wednesday's game, Bristol City and Derby, one of the eye-catching games for me. If Bristol City do not win this game, and the likes of Preston and some of the other teams such as Millwall and Cardiff win their games, it could really put severe pressure on Bristol's authority in the top 6. I'm going to say it'll be a 1-1 draw. I can't see Derby losing this game, although with their poor away form, I don't see Derby beating Bristol City. So I'll say a 1-1 draw. Huddersfield and Cardiff is really tight. I'm going to say 2-1 Huddersfield. Luton and Sheffield Wednesday. But I'm not going to lie, I'm not confident with either of these sides. I was originally going to put a 0-0 draw for this game, but I think Luton will get a 2-1 home victory. Reason being, their last win was a midweek game against Derby, and I'm going to go with the really stupid logic, but I think Luton can win midweek games. It's probably going to be a very dumb logic for me to look at looking at this Wednesday game, but who knows, maybe this could be the most ingenious prediction I'll make this week. I'm going to say Luton win by 2-1. Millwall and Fulham, gosh, this is really tough this. Millwall don't lose much in the den. Fulham looking quite good in terms of their form recently. I'm going to say Fulham get a 1-0 away victory. I think Millwall will continue their poor run of form, but I think Fulham will capitalise on that. Reading arrest Brom. I'm actually going to think the same scoreline. I think it's going to be a 1-0 away victory to West Brom. I don't think it'll be a pretty game. I think it'll be quite cagey, but I think West Brom will get one opportunity, maybe a Charlie Austin penalty, and now make it 1-0 to West Brom. And finally, Stoke and Preston. This is really tough because Stoke have proven to be quite good at home now. Preston, not very strong away from home, although they are in their best away form, not losing in their last 4 away games. I'm not convinced Preston will win, but I think this will be a 2-2 draw. I think it will be a very entertaining game. There you have it. This is my reaction to Matchday 31 and my score predictions for Matchday 32. Do you agree with me? What is your predictions? What's your reaction to this weekend's championship games? Let me know in the comments down below. If there's anything I've missed that you wish to know from me, you can always follow me on Twitter. That's always on the screen, and it's also in the description down below. That wraps it up. The championship football schedule is frantic at the moment, which I am absolutely loving, by the way. So if you guys like what you see, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's massively appreciated. Please subscribe if you haven't done. If you're new around here, all of that would be fantastically appreciated. Remember, 97 subscribers at the moment, 3 away from that 100 subscriber mark. That'll be absolutely amazing if we can get that as soon as we can. And please share the channel to as many football fans as we can so we can grow this channel. All of that would be fantastically appreciated. But thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, take care.